And finally, it's the glittering new addition to the Las Vegas skyline. You've probably seen what it looks like from the outside, but tonight, ahead of the grand opening, Gotti Schwartz takes us inside the Sphere.
September 2023. The Las Vegas Sphere lights up for the first time. 1.2 million LED panels transform the desert skyline into a glowing eyeball visible from aircraft at cruising altitude. Inside, U2 performs to a sold-out crowd surrounded by the world's largest LED screen, wrapping 270 degrees around them at 16K resolution. Critics call it the future of entertainment. 6 months later, the company reports losing $500 million in a single year. The building that was supposed to revolutionize live entertainment is hemorrhaging cash faster than anyone predicted, and the man who bet everything on it now faces the possibility that his $2.3 billion masterpiece might collapse before it ever becomes profitable. The man who shouldn't have built the future. The story begins with James Dolan, the billionaire owner of the New York Knicks and Rangers, who has earned a brutal reputation as one of the worst sports franchise owners in American history, based on decades of championship failures and public feuds. With his own fans, under Dolan's leadership, the Knicks haven't won an NBA championship since 1973, and the Rangers haven't captured the Stanley Cup since 1994, which means two of the most valuable franchises in professional sports have combined for exactly 2 championships in 50 years of operations, despite playing in the world's most famous arena in the largest media market in America. Dolan became infamous for using facial recognition cameras at Madison Square Garden to ban lawyers whose firms sued him. And he's taken legal action against fans for holding protest signs during Knicks games, which paints a portrait of someone known for vindictiveness and questionable judgment in almost every public business decision. But in 2015, Dolan announced a vision nobody expected. He wanted to create a venue that would make every concert hall on Earth feel obsolete by inventing a completely new category of experience where architecture, technology, and entertainment merged into something nobody had witnessed before in human history. The original cost estimate was $1.2 billion, already an astronomical figure that made investors nervous. But that number was disputed almost immediately by analysts who understood the complexity of what Dolan proposed to build in the Nevada desert. By the time construction began in 2018, the projected cost had climbed to $1.66 billion, and it would continue spiraling upward as Dolan became obsessed with perfecting every detail regardless of financial consequences. The construction nightmare that destroyed the budget. What happened during 5 years of construction reads like a masterclass in how not to manage a complex engineering project, because Dolan fired the 2 top executives in charge of the Sphere while simultaneously making constantly changing demands that drove costs into the stratosphere and created chaos among contractors trying to complete work without clear direction or timely payments for services already rendered. The original project manager, Ryder Levette Bucknall, sued for $3.1 million in unpaid fees, and in court filings their lawyers described the Sphere as Dolan's pet project, and stated he was very involved in every step of the way, including being critically involved in the payment of everyone, and absolutely involved in stopping the payments when contractors submitted invoices for completed work that met all specifications. One story captures how costs spiraled completely out of control. There was supposed to be the world's longest bar inside the Sphere, as a marquee attraction that would draw visitors and generate revenue. So the construction team built it according to specifications and waited for approval. But when Dolan walked through the completed space, he decided he didn't like how it looked, and ordered the entire bar ripped out and redesigned, which meant millions spent building something and millions more destroying it without generating a single dollar of revenue. ECOM's Hunt Construction Group, the prime contractor overseeing the entire build, was terminated in December 2020 and filed its own lawsuit seeking $7.1 million in unpaid fees, while claiming Dolan's micromanagement and payment delays made it impossible to complete the project on the original timeline or budget. Dolan eventually settled investor lawsuits for $133.5 million after shareholders accused him of misleading them about rising costs and the timeline for opening, which was an admission that the company had failed to properly communicate the financial reality of what was happening in Las Vegas. His chief financial officer, Gautam Ranji, quit after losses mounted, and Dolan reportedly screamed at him during meetings about the deteriorating financial situation. leaving the company without experienced financial leadership at a critical moment when the Sphere was approaching its launch date. By September 2023, when the Sphere finally opened with U2's Residency, the final cost had reached $2.3 billion, nearly double the original estimate, and one of the largest cost overruns in entertainment venue history. The engineering miracle that actually works. Despite all the chaos, lawsuits, and financial mismanagement, the building that emerged is a legitimate engineering masterpiece that pushed the boundaries of what's technically possible in live entertainment, and understanding what makes it work requires examining three interconnected systems that had never been attempted at this scale anywhere on Earth. The exosphere, the outer skin covered in approximately 1.2 million individually programmable LED pucks that aren't traditional screens, but individual light modules capable of displaying millions of colors and creating the illusion of motion across the entire 366-foot-tall structure visible from every corner of the Las Vegas Valley and even from aircraft flying overhead at cruising altitude. During the Formula One Las Vegas Grand Prix, the Sphere displayed real-time race graphics visible to tens of thousands of spectators. And during March Madness, it transformed into a basketball that appeared to spin in three-dimensional space, demonstrating that the building functions as both a venue and massive piece of dynamic public art that changes the city's skyline every night. Step inside, and the interior LED screen is even more overwhelming: 160,000 square feet of display surface, wrapping 270 degrees around the audience at a resolution of 16K by 16K pixels. Enough resolution to fill the entire field of vision of every person in the 17,600-seat venue, without visible pixelation or screen boundaries that would break immersion. When watching a show inside the Sphere, your brain stops processing what you're seeing as a screen and starts experiencing it as physical place. Because there are no edges, no frames, and no reference points reminding you you're looking at a display rather than actual reality. The audio system uses 167,000 individual speaker drivers arranged in a beamforming array that directs precise beams of sound to specific seats rather than blasting audio in all directions like traditional systems, which means two people sitting next to each other can theoretically hear different sounds or even different languages without acoustic overlap between their listening experiences. The system can make it feel like a helicopter is flying directly over your head, or like rain is falling around you but not on you. Spatial audio taken to a scale nobody had attempted before the Sphere opened its doors. Each of the 17,600 seats has built-in vibration motors that synchronize with visual and audio content, so when an explosion happens on screen you feel it through your body. And when bass drops during a concert, the seat physically thumps in rhythm. And when wind blows in an immersive film, fans push air across your skin to complete the sensory illusion. To create content for this unprecedented space, Sphere Entertainment built a separate production studio and developed a proprietary camera system called Big Sky, designed specifically to capture footage at the resolution and field of view required. Filmmaker Darren Aronofsky directed the venue's first original film, Postcard from Earth, and stated publicly that the technology required simply didn't exist before this building was constructed, which meant every piece of equipment had to be invented, tested, and manufactured specifically for this one project. When U2 opened the venue on September 29, 2023, reviews were universal. Critics who walked in skeptical walked out converted, saying this was unlike anything anyone had experienced, and that the concert wasn't just entertainment but a demonstration that a completely new form of live performance was now possible. The financial catastrophe nobody can fix. The building works, the technology is revolutionary, and the experience genuinely transcends anything else in live entertainment, but there's one catastrophic problem that no amount of LED screens or spatial audio can solve. And that problem is the financial model is completely broken from day one. Sphere Entertainment posted more than $500 million in operating losses during the venue's first year. And by the end of 2024, total losses since the Sphere segment began reporting had exceeded $1.18 billion, which means the company burned through more than $1 billion trying to prove this concept can work as sustainable business rather than just an expensive technological demonstration. The company carries $534 million in debt related specifically to the Sphere, and $1.5 billion in total company debt. creating financial pressure that grows worse every quarter as interest payments accumulate, and revenue fails to cover the massive operating costs required to keep 1.2 million LED panels powered and 167,000 speakers functioning across every single show. In 2024, the Sphere grossed $420.5 million from 1.3 million concert tickets sold, making it the highest-grossing venue in the world and beating even Madison Square Garden in total revenue. The Wizard of Oz immersive experience, launched in 2025, sold over 2 million tickets and generated $260 million in revenue, proving audiences were willing to pay premium prices for content designed specifically for the Sphere's unique capabilities. But the operating costs are crushing those revenue gains. Running 1.2 million LED panels consumes electricity at industrial scale. Powering 167,000 speakers requires massive HVAC systems to prevent equipment overheating. Maintaining haptic systems in 17,600 seats demands constant mechanical servicing, and staffing a building that employs up to 3,000 people creates a payroll burden that never stops regardless of whether tickets are selling. The electricity bill alone has been described as staggering. Estimates suggest the Sphere consumes enough power daily to supply thousands of residential homes. And Nevada's desert climate means cooling costs are particularly brutal during summer months, when outdoor temperatures regularly exceed 110 degrees, and the LED systems generate additional heat that must be constantly removed. Revenue is coming in at record levels, but it's not coming in fast enough to cover construction debt still being financed, operating costs that scale with every show, and accumulated losses that piled up before the building found its audience. Warning signs suggest the initial hype is cooling. Concert tickets that were impossible to obtain during the first months are now regularly available on show nights. Prices for the Postcard from Earth experience dropped from $119 to $99 to fill seats. Revenue dipped 1.9% in the final quarter of 2024, and the company missed earnings forecasts analysts had already revised downward. The desperate plan to build more or go bankrupt. Faced with mounting losses and investor pressure, Dolan's strategy is simultaneously bold and desperate. Instead of cutting costs, he's announced plans to build more Spheres around the world and franchise the technology to cities that will fund construction, while Sphere Entertainment collects licensing fees and content royalties without spending capital on building costs. In October 2024, Sphere Entertainment confirmed that Abu Dhabi would host the second Sphere, identical to the Las Vegas version, with the Department of Culture and Tourism fully funding construction, while Sphere Entertainment provides technology, content, and operational expertise in exchange for annual payments that could potentially offset losses accumulating in Nevada. The vision Dolan sells to investors is a global network of Spheres, all running proprietary content and paying licensing fees back to the parent company. And the logic makes sense, because the massive cost of developing technology and content gets spread across multiple venues instead of being carried entirely by the single Las Vegas location. But the critical question investors keep asking is whether the first Sphere will survive financially long enough for the second and third locations to start generating meaningful revenue that can cover the debt load crushing the company's balance sheet right now. Because you can't franchise your way out of $1.5 billion in debt if the flagship location is still burning through hundreds of millions annually. The Las Vegas Sphere is genuinely revolutionary. The technology works. Concerts are transcendent. The venue grossed more money in 2024 than any other entertainment space in the world. And it might still go bankrupt. Because building something revolutionary and building something profitable are two completely different challenges, and the Sphere has only solved one of them. Some things are worth more than what they cost to build, but the market has to agree before the money runs out. And in Las Vegas, where the Sphere glows every night, the clock is ticking louder than the 167,000 speakers inside.